On target, new tonight on our news, live at 7. Work on Grand Bahamas International Airport is set to ramp up. The latest on the development coming up. Plus, why the Anglerston MP says she's still against the deal with Royal Caribbean International.
No, my views have not changed. My views have not changed.
Store policies aren't law. That's the word from the Consumer Protection Unit as they tell us what your rights are as a customer. I'm Berthany McDermott, and I'll have all the details for you tonight in our news.
And then in our news at 7:30, new details about a $300 million eco-resort set for West Grand Bahama. Welcome to our news live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jamila Mizik. Some may say it is long overdue, but finally, it appears Grand Bahamians are closer than ever to getting a new international airport facility. The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism making the announcement early this morning at the 20th Grand Bahama Business Outlook. Our Megan Shepherd has the details.
Grand Bahama, your new airport is coming and will be here very soon.
This announcement by Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper more than welcomed news for Grand Bahamians who hope the redevelopment of the airport sparks a major economic boost for the island.
In February, the government of the Bahamas entered an agreement with Aerodrome Limited, a Bahamian company, Manchester Airport Group Limited, an airport management company based in Manchester in the UK, and BHM Construction International Company, based in London, and we expect financing to be provided by the UK Export Finance, UKEF.
These three companies, he says, represent a joint venture consortium that successfully bid to design, build, finance, operate, maintain, and develop the airport.
Their mission is to transform GBIA into a carbon-neutral, climate-resilient, commercially viable, world-class airport.
Now, the redevelopment will happen in 2 phases, and according to the Deputy Prime Minister, Phase 1 will create some 1,200 jobs over the next 5 years. 90% of those jobs will be reserved for Bahamians. Phase 1 is expected to be completed no later than Q1 2025.
Phase 2 commences 2 years after Phase 1 wraps up. Cooper adding a full team will be on island on March 27th for further assessments, and demolition of the old international terminal is expected to take place before the first week of April. Reporting for Our News from the island of Grand Bahama, I'm Megan Shepherd.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie. List your home in Grand Bahama with H.G. Christie. Visit our new office in the Port Lacaya Marketplace. H.G. Christie, celebrating over 100 years of service.
Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper also reassuring residents the Davis administration is hard at work restoring and reviving Grand Bahama holistically. A key component, the sale of the Grand Lucine Resort. Cooper says far too much money has already been spent and the hotel's sale remains a top priority.
We have recently received 3 credible offers on the resort from entities that have already undergone preliminary due diligence. We are committed to completing the best possible transaction for the Bahamian people. The key is to have the resort redeveloped and the full complement of construction and operational staff employed. The key is to ascertain developmental or developing financing for the actual development.
While many Grand Bahamians would like to hear more concrete details, the Deputy Prime Minister says any further announcements will have to wait.
We will not make any further public announcements until full due diligence is completed and funding is verified and placed in escrow, and we have a definitive imminent closing. In other words, let me say this. I ain't saying nothing else until the money is in the bank.
A Bahamian man who married a woman while still legally married to his first wife has been jailed for a year. 36-year-old Lavardo Ferguson pleaded guilty to entering into a fictitious marriage and making a false declaration for marriage at his arraignment before Senior Magistrate Carolyn Vo Evans. Prosecutors say the security guard got a marriage license on February 2, 2022, after he falsely claimed he was a bachelor. Before he wed Christina Dunkley, a Jamaican national, last March, Ferguson once again falsely claimed he was single. Ferguson's first marriage was discovered after he went to the National Insurance Board with his new wife to get an NIB card. A search of records at the Registrar General's Department showed Ferguson was still married to another Jamaican national whom he wed on October 11, 2011. Ferguson told the court he was under the mistaken impression his first marriage had ended. He said a year after their nuptials, Brown's lawyer served him with divorce papers, which he signed. In sentencing, Vo Evans said Ferguson's actions couldn't be taken lightly, given current affairs of immigration in the country. Meanwhile, a man arriving home after 9 last night was one of the latest residents to be held up at gunpoint. Police say 2 gunmen approached the victim while he was outside his Faith Avenue home. The armed robbers took the victim's 2007 silver Honda Stream, wallet, cell phone, and a permit. The suspects were last seen in the Bellot Road area. The hunt continues for those 2 suspects. A tip leading police to a dangerous find in an abandoned building. Police say around 6 p.m. on Wednesday, officers attached to the Drug Enforcement Unit and the K-9 Unit went to an abandoned building on White's Lane off Mackey Street. After extensively searching the area, they found a black high-powered weapon along with 2 magazines which contained 17 live rounds of ammunition. No arrests were made. It's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks and welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this comfortable Thursday evening. 7 degrees outside our studios under mostly clear skies after we had all those clouds last evening. Your winds are still blowing out there, east-northeast at 15 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature comfortable but cool 69 degrees. Temperatures around the islands tonight at 69 in Port, 70 over in Marsh Harbour, Abaco, Alice Bimini 74, 70 in Great Harbour Key, Nicholson Andra 71, 71 also in Governor's Harbour. Here in the capital we are at 70. 73 in Kemps Bay in the Central Bahamas, 72 in Artist Town, Cat Island, 73 also in Georgetown. We pick up 71 in Coburn Town, San Salvador, over in Deadman's Key. You guys are 74. Southeast Bahamas, 75 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. We pick up 74 in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island. Pair of 73s, Delectable Bay and Abrams Bay. Meguana, Providenciales, Turks and Caicos Islands, you are 75 at this hour. And Matthew Town in Agua, deep south, you are the warm spot. You are checking in at 76. Satellite view. Frontal boundary is pushed well to the south of the southeast Bahamas, now across Hispaniola, but we still have some residual clouds hanging back over the Anagua and the southeast Bahamas, as well as the Turks and Caicos Islands. High pressure is building in behind that, drier and more pleasant air mass invading our area, but we still have some very large swells out there that's affecting us, and we're asking you boaters and beachgoers to exercise extreme caution if you plan on doing any of those activities tonight to tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us to look at your extended forecast. Is still to come.
Still to come on our news, a cabinet minister takes a strong stance against a multi-million-dollar project set for Paradise Island. And how clean is the air you breathe? How the Bahamas stacks up on the world stage. That's coming up when our news returns.
Games.
Royal Caribbean International's Beach Club project on Paradise Island may have the green light, but there's one high-ranking PLP cabinet minister who is still against the project. Armelina Leonard has the details.
This is a deal that we inherited from the Free National Movement administration. I did not support it then. My views have not changed on it.
The education minister called the project harebrained back in 2021 and says the reasoning behind the project is flawed. She shared similar sentiments today.
First of all, I don't, the cruise industry does not require an island on New Providence. I mean, what we should be doing is developing the cultural and entrepreneurial opportunities for the cruise ship, the visitors, when they disembark. They keep saying there's nothing to do. Well, let's get something done.
Also, while in opposition, Hannah Martin questioned why a Bahamian was apparently kicked to the curb.
I said from day one that the Bahamian participant in this whole picture had to be sent front and center. Now, I'm here, the Prime Minister has indicated that talks are continuing with him.
But her biggest concern is the use of Crown land.
I also believe that Crown land should be very carefully utilized because it's a limited resource. It's owned by all of our people, and I just have very strong views on it, and no, my views have not changed. That we have to be, in our national development, we have to be very circumspect and careful about how we move forward, particularly as it relates to land.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. The tourism product could be at risk as foreigners are being scammed by some local businesses. That's according to a senior official from the Consumer Protection Commission. He says store policies are not law and is tonight telling consumers what they need to know when walking into stores. Brittany McDermott reports.
The Consumer Protection Commission says officials are looking closely at downtown businesses as they say some are targeting foreigners. Senior Education Research and Training Supervisor Lavad Darling says some of them are overcharging foreign patrons.
There are certain stores on Bay Street that are targeting our tourists, particularly our cruise ship passengers, right? They would purchase an item for X amount of dollars, then they give you some free items. And when these tourists get back to their home, they find that their credit card has been charged $10,000, $15,000.
Darling says the matter is being addressed with the help of other agencies. For local business owners, it seems many are unaware of the rights of consumers, according to Darling.
Store policies are not the law of the land. Right, that's a major concern for us.
So what do you need to know? Darling says it's illegal for businesses to refuse cash refunds. And for frequent debit or credit card users, Darling says it's illegal to impose minimum purchases.
The right to choose is a basic consumer right. And anybody who tries to deprive you of that right to choose by dictating to you as a consumer that you have to accept a store credit, whereby you may want a cash refund or exchange the item, that is a violation of the Act. The Merchant Services Agreement for using a credit card stipulates that you're not supposed to have a minimum purchase and you're not supposed to be charging a convenience fee.
There was a recent meeting to address these matters, and the Commission is looking at legislation to address them as well. Darling says the greatest offenders of these regulations are retailers.
The problem is in enforcing that in terms of getting before a court and getting a summary conviction, right? Prolific offenders, we're interested in the process and how we can actually have those licenses revoked.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Brittany McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as 21 workers are killed in a Colombia coal mine. Plus, how clean is the air around you? A global report takes a closer look. And later on this day in history, the Bahamas signs an agreement with the U.S. for the project that would become known as the Contract. The details when Our News continues. This is our news. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. The Pentagon releasing a video today showing what it said was a Russian military jet coming very close to a U.S. military drone, dumping fuel near it and damaging a propeller in the aftermath. The declassified video, which is about 40 seconds long, has been edited by the U.S. military for length, but the Pentagon says it shows events in a sequential order. The incident worsening already tense relations between Washington and Moscow, while Russia says it would try to retrieve the remains of the drone. Meanwhile, unions representing healthcare workers in England have agreed a final 5% pay offer with the British government, potentially bringing an end to some strikes affecting the state-run National Health Service. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has been under growing pressure to quell the worst run of worker unrest in the country since the 1980s. A statement by government and healthcare unions said both sides believe the offer represented a fair and reasonable settlement. The Biden administration issuing a stark warning to owners of popular video sharing app TikTok, demanding they sell their shares in the company or face a U.S. ban. The move is the latest in a series of efforts by the U.S. to limit Chinese influence, citing concerns over data privacy. The Beijing-based company has faced intense scrutiny in recent years over allegations it shares user data with the Chinese government. The issue has also led to a ban in the UK government. And rescue operations at a coal mine in central Colombia that collapsed earlier this week ended today. Authorities say 21 workers were killed late Tuesday following an explosion that blocked several of its entrances. Rescue teams worked nonstop for more than 30 hours to find survivors and retrieve bodies. Colombian Governor Nicolas Garcia said 9 workers survived the accident and had been released from hospital. And finally, in news from the region, British Virgin Islanders will soon elect a new government as elections have been set for April 24th. The territory's election machinery is already in place as Governor John Rankin has approved over 20 polling locations across 9 districts. The last general election was held in 2019. The Virgin Islands party led by Dr. Natalia Wheatley won 8 of 15 seats in Parliament under the leadership of embattled former Premier Andrew Fouhey. To the naked eye, everything may look clean and healthy, but air pollution continues to be the world's largest environmental health threat. Christina Dragovich takes a closer look in tonight's Sustainability First report.
Bahamas First, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
In 2019, 99% of the world's population was living in an area where air quality guidelines did not meet World Health Organization standards. In fact, the WHO reports that outdoor or ambient air pollution is estimated to have caused 4.2 million premature deaths worldwide in 2019. Air pollution is the second highest risk factor for non-communicable diseases and can impact children under age 18 and pregnant women disproportionately. These poisonous gases include nitrogen oxides from fuel burned at high temperatures, sulfur oxides from the burning of coal, oil, or diesel, and ozone formed from the chemical reaction of car or power plant emissions and sunlight. Those can inflame and damage airways, aggravating asthma, emphysema, and chronic bronchitis. How is air pollution measured? In tiny particles known as PM 2.5, the size of their diameter, which can penetrate the lungs and increase risk of disease. The WHO recommends PM 2.5 levels of no more than 5 micrograms per cubic meter. According to the World Air Quality Report 2022, 13 out of 131 countries and regions surveyed succeeded in achieving that concentration at or below WHO guidelines. IQ Air is a free tool that measures air quality around the world with data updated daily. For instance, here in Nassau, air quality is currently good with PM 2.5 levels at 1.5 micrograms per cubic meter. But there's still a lot of work to do to keep air quality levels in an acceptable range and reduce air pollution for the health of our global communities and cities. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come on Our News, Today in History. Find out interesting facts about the day that was March 16th and the 1938 birth of Tommy Robinson. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in Our News at 7:30, a convention highlights local businesses in a special niche. That's coming up when Our News continues. Welcome back to Our News. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was March 16th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1938, Thomas Augustus Tommy Robinson was born in Nassau. He was one of the most accomplished athletes in Bahamian history, having competed in track and field at the Central American and Caribbean Games, the West Indian Federation Games, and the Olympics, among others. He specialized in the 100-yard dash, 200-yard dash, 100 meters, 200 meters, and 4x100-meter relay. The Historical Society notes after his athletic career, he worked as a banker for some years. In 1981, the National Stadium was named in his honor, and the more recently built 15,000-seat stadium, which opened in 2012, bears his name. Robinson died on November 25, 2012. He was 74. Then in 1943, the governments of the Bahama Islands and the United States signed a work program known as the Contract. The Historical Society notes this work program allowed persons from the islands to work on farms in the United States. As many as 3,000 Bahamian men and women worked in the U.S. from 1943 through 1965. Cordell Thompson recently gave a lecture on the contract, including personal interviews with persons who worked in the program. Then in 1945, the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward VIII, stepped down as governor of the Bahama Islands. He became governor on the 18th of August, 1940. During his governorship, which began on August 18, 1940, several key events in Bahamian history occurred. Among them, the Burma Road riots of 1942, the signing of the contract in 1943, and the murder of Sir Harry Oakes in July 1943. And finally, on this day in 1969, Henry Hank Williams became the first Bahamian to pitch in a professional game in Major League Baseball as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers. The Historical Society notes he came onto the field in the ninth inning and closed out the game against the Chicago White Sox at the Queen Elizabeth Sports Center during MLB spring training. The Genesis Academy kicking off 2 days of National Pride events this morning, celebrating our road to 50 years of independence. The school's events are being held under the theme, Marching Toward Our God. This morning, some special guests joined their assembly, including Education Minister Glennis Hannah Martin, who had this to say of the value of our independence.
All of what I have referred you to is a rich inheritance for you. You know, when you inherit something so rich and beautiful and valuable, years of struggle, years of progress, generations of hope and ageless optimism, the great unleashing that came with independence, and the proud triumph in almost every sphere of life. This is yours.
Not only was she a special guest, but also parent to some Genesis Academy students. Chairperson of the National Independence Secretariat, Leslie Miller Bryce, spoke about ways they can use their national pride to march onward in a way that honors God.
We must volunteer 242 minutes. You can donate to a worthy cause, and like activities, reminds us all of how to show our Christian love to our fellow Bahamians. Donate, volunteer, help through random acts of kindness. Do something that helps someone else and gives God all of the glory.
Now to watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for our news at 7. Joining us now is our Italia Hall with the latest headlines. Italia?
Yes, Jamila, it's so great to see the little ones at Genesis Academy come together and show their Bahamian pride. How do you show your Bahamian pride as we approach the 50th anniversary?
Showing my Bahamian pride for me means listening to Bahamian music, eating Bahamian food, and all of that good stuff. And of course, Junkanoo. Yes. If you know me, you know I love me some Junkanoo.
All right, thanks so much, Jamila. And we are still talking about Grand Bahama tonight with major developments set for the island, plus the return of a legendary Bahamian musician. Stay with us. We've got more on an upcoming concert.
First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, a multi-million-dollar eco-resort is set for West End, Grand Bahama. The details straight ahead. Plus, you may be surprised who some of the biggest price control violators are. Our Bertha McDermott has the story. And the bank teller who stole from a former governor general gets jail time. Details from inside the courtroom. And later, a legendary Bahamian musician makes a comeback after 20 years. We'll tell you who tonight on Our News. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Be on the lookout when shopping. That warning coming from the Price Control Commission, which is calling on residents to report price violations. In this report, Berthany McDermott tells us officials have identified the main offenders and are looking to beef up penalties.
Amid public outcry of overpriced products in stores and the ongoing impact of inflation, officials from the Price Control Commission have determined that mom-and-pop stores are the greatest price control violators.
We find that most of the bigger stores, and I don't want to call any names, but the bigger ones, they are in compliance.
That's Senior Inspector Theodore Curry, who says officials are keeping a close eye on these businesses. Residents have been expressing outrage over what seems to be escalating prices in some stores. When it comes to why these businesses oftentimes break price control laws,
because of the cost of doing business, and I don't want to get too much into that, but some people, their complaint is it's difficult doing business in the country. So anywhere where they can try and get around the system, they try to do that.
Price Control Commission Director Rex Adderley says when violators are cited, warnings are issued. The warning is followed by a fine of up to $5,000 for each infraction and a term not exceeding 6 months. But is it enough?
No, sir. It's becoming evident now that we may have to up that so it could be much clearer. We are sitting now with the board subcommittee looking at the Price Control Act and the Rent Control Act and seeing how we can up those fines and imprisonment terms.
Recently, the rising price of eggs in food stores took many by surprise, prompting the government to encourage the local production of eggs. The commission has come under fire as many feel they are ineffective. To that, Adderley responded this way.
Anytime you come across these items, you can make a complaint to us.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. Well, a $300 million project is on the way for West Grand Bahama. Megan Shepard fills us in.
Eden Hotel and Resorts is a Bahamian registered company whose principals are based in the United States, and they also have extensive experience in commercial real estate. This, according to Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Chester Cooper.
Eden is a $300 million project to develop an eco-resort community and sustainable farm for aquaculture and agricultural production on 93 acres of waterfront in West Grand Bahama. Eden is already in the process of purchasing the 93-acre waterfront property. Eden's three main development priorities are to develop and operate an eco-resort with hotel and villas, a sustainable farm aquaculture primarily with some agriculture to serve the resort, domestic markets, and the export to the USA, a marina to support the aquaculture operations, as well as recreational activities and transient boaters.
Eden will be an eco-resort community that adheres to community and environmentally sensitive principles across all of its operations.
Consumers are demanding smarter, more environmentally responsible options to live, work, to visit, and play, and the Eden Resort is ideally suited to address this growing market need. This resort is expected to break ground in the fourth quarter of this year, and they've got their own money.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. Well, Grand Bahama is closer than ever to getting a new international airport. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper making the announcement early this morning at the 20th Grand Bahama Business Outlook. It was more than welcome news for Grand Bahamians who hope the redevelopment of the airport sparks a major economic boost for the island.
The Grand Bahama, your new airport is coming and will be here very soon. In February, the government of the Bahamas entered an agreement with Aerodrome Limited, a Bahamian company, Manchester Airport Group Limited, an airport management company based in Manchester in the UK, and BHM Construction International Company based in London. And we expect financing to be provided by the UK Export Finance UKEF.
Now, the DPM says these three companies represent a joint venture consortium that successfully bid to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the airport.
Their mission is to transform GBIA into a carbon neutral, climate resilient, commercially viable, world-class airport. Subject to final designs, this is expected to be an investment of $200 million in that range, and this investment will begin its preliminary works this quarter, this month, March.
All right, great news for Grand Bahama. While Western Air has expanded in size over the years from providing more routes to new aircraft. Following Hurricane Dorian, the company took a blow after the monster storm destroyed their terminal in Grand Bahama. Repairs have been ongoing since then. I spoke with the Vice President of Operations, Rexy Roll, about its construction.
It's not open as yet, but in the coming weeks, we certainly look forward to opening the terminal. A few logistics and sort of ceremonial things that have to be completed.
And she says there are some other logistics to work through as well
as regulatory items. Once those things are done, we look forward to opening the terminal. We don't have a set date yet, but we can see the rainbow at the end of the tunnel.
Last year, Western Air began offering nonstop flights from Nassau to Fort Lauderdale, a move many on Grand Bahama have been asking for. Here was the Vice President of Operations' response as to whether or not that is a possibility for that northern island.
We don't have flights yet, but again, it's one of those things that we can see that coming in the very near future.
Well, more cool and breezy conditions in the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us from the Weather Center with a closer look. Good evening, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for our first quick check on weather on the second half of our newscast. Comfortable conditions outside. We still have a little bit of sun peeking out there. Mostly clear skies, 70 degrees. Your winds are out of the east-northeast at 15 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature at 68. Frontal boundary to the south of the Bahamas, now across Hispaniola, with some clouds still hanging back across the southeast Bahamas. Most of the activity is gone. High pressure is building in with more pleasant air mass across our area, but we still have some very large, moderate swells. They're affecting the islands. We're continuing to ask you beachgoers and you boaters to exercise extreme caution. That's a quick check on weather. Stick with us. Look at extended forecasts still to come.
Still to come on our news, local beauty businesses set to shine at an upcoming convention. But first, a bank teller who stole from a former governor general is jailed. The details straight ahead. And later, diving into the upcoming Carifta Games with our Bahamian swimmers. That's all coming up when our news returns.
A former bank teller sentenced to 1 year in prison for stealing money from the account of former Governor General Arthur D. Hanna. While working at the Bank of the Bahamas, Cameron Roll Jr. stole $56,600 from Hanna's account between October 17, 2016 and April 16, 2017. The unauthorized withdrawals from Hanna's account were caught on the bank's surveillance cameras. Roll would hide the stolen money in his wicket during working hours. Before he left work, Roll would hide the money in his pocket. Roll entered a plea agreement that required him to repay the stolen money in October 2018 over a 5-year period to avoid spending 2 years in prison. However, Roll has only repaid $35,520. Since Roll had paid more than half of the money owed, he was jailed for 1 year instead of 2. Police on the island of New Providence have arrested 3 men on drug possession charges shortly after 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Officers attached to Operation Ceasefire were tipped off and headed to a Carmichael Road home. That's where officers observed 3 men sitting underneath a tree. After seeing the officers, they ran but were captured following a short chase. The men were taken back to the area and officers searched a derelict vehicle where they found more than a pound of marijuana. The drugs have an estimated street value of $1,130. It's the one place lovers of all things beauty, makeup, and skincare meet. The Bahamas Beauty Convention gives attendees the opportunity to experience local and international beauty products and more, according to organizer Robin Young.
So for me, organizing my event, some of the highlights have been to know that I am making a difference in allowing Bahamians opportunities to showcase their business and to network and gain potential clients, to make sure that persons have a lasting experience, a positive experience, and something unique they take home from each event.
And here's what you can expect.
Persons can expect a lot from all of our vendors for our upcoming event. There will be live demos, loads of product sampling, product testing from participating vendors, and also opportunities to win lots of prizes and take homes from the event.
The event will take place Saturday, April 1st at Atlantis. You can purchase tickets online at eventbrite.com or RSVP for free and pay admission at the door.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, a Bahamian music legend makes a return after 20 years with an upcoming concert.
Plus, coming up in Sports for You tonight, we'll take a quick look at how things are going at the World Baseball Classic. Bahamian players continuing to shine on Great Britain's squad. That's ahead in sports.
Plus, what does it take to prepare for a big meet? Our Sasha Lightborn goes behind the scenes. The details when our news returns.
This is our news. Welcome back. Ever wondered how a swimmer prepares for a meet? What are some of their rituals, or what do they eat? Our Sasha Lightborn gets the scoop.
Preparation is key for every athlete across sports disciplines. For swimmers, preparation may seem a bit more tedious, with rituals which differ from swimmer to swimmer, according to Kalia Albury, a junior at Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Right before my race, I listen to music, stretch, but coming like the week before the event, being a distance swimmer, I would carb load, so that's eating a lot of pasta, just so my body can store the energy, because swimming for that long, you have to make sure you have enough energy.
As a former Carifta swimmer, we asked Kalia, when does the mental preparation for Carifta begin?
It starts from they release the Carifta list, because most of us, already swam together in club teams. But once they release the list, we start talking on social media. And then the first practice is, everyone trying to get to know each other, better, even from separate clubs.
She also shared memories of being on past Carifta teams.
My first Carifta team was in 2018. I only made the open water team, but it was still a great experience. The whole team, bonded together, even though it was open water and swimming. They still bonded together. We swam together, we hung out together. They encouraged us just as we encouraged them. It was just a really big, one happy family.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Thanks, Sasha. Well, top Bahamian baseball players doing their part at the World Baseball Classic. Meanwhile, the Carifta trials are just around the corner. Marcellus Hall has the latest. Marcellus?
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. We're here in Bimini, the home of VJ Edgecombe, who has been doing some great things in New York as a high school player of the year, getting some great D1 offers. We'll tell you how that progress goes as time goes on. Meanwhile, however, the Bahamian players continue to shine at the World Baseball Classic as Great Britain's continues their quest and seeing how they can do, taking on Mexico recently. Let's see how they did. World Baseball Classic action continuing. Great Britain taking on Mexico. A number of Bahamians on that Great Britain squad looking to continue their stellar play. Mexico, though, a tough out. And guess what? They would get the win here despite a good effort by the Great Britain team. Great Mexico would actually score first. That would come in the bottom of the second inning. Great Britain would tie it on a B.J. Murray hit in the top of the sixth. But it was, again, Mexico coming forward with a couple of runs. That would be in the bottom of the seventh inning. That would be a 2-1 margin. That would be all she wrote as Great Britain takes the loss here. They fall to 1-3 in pool play. Meanwhile, Mexico improves to 3-1. Great Britain still has a chance to advance out of that pool. We'll see how exactly it shapes up as play continues. Meanwhile, the Carifta trials are coming up fast. Those are set for the end of this month, March 25th through 27th at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Trials will feature high schools as well as the high school nationals track and field championships. They'll combine the two events in order to get as many Carifta qualifiers as possible. Again, the Bahamas does host that event during the Easter holiday weekend. Other local news, New Providence Basketball Association playoffs. They got rolling last night over at the AF Valley Gym. Rebels taking on the RC Liquors Eagles in Division II play. Rebels take the 1-0 lead in the series as they get the victory here, 73-66. As far as Division I play, well, it was the Carroll Contractors Shockers continuing their dominance over the University of the Bahamas. They win 72-68, ending up being your final margin. Bahamas Football Association has dropped the names of its top 10 goal scorers in the women's division. Aisha Butler of Dynamos FC, she leads the way with a total of 9, followed by Sydney Hector of Bahama Juniors with a total of 6. Hadassah Knowles has 5 to round up the top 3. Everybody else with around 3 goals. And there it is, your check on sports here on this Thursday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, Phil Stubbs is making his return with a concert this month. We'll tell you how you can grab a ticket. Plus, what is weather looking like for the rest of the week? Greg is back in the Weather Center right after this quick break. Stay with us.
When it comes to picking
Welcome back to our news. How much longer will breezy and cool conditions last? Well, Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead. Greg?
Thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody. And our final look at weather. High pressure is building behind the frontal boundary that is now across Hispaniola. We had quite a bit of activity over the islands last evening. Showers and isolated thunderstorms spreading across that area, but most of that has died off. We could see 1 or 2 isolated showers across the southeast Bahamas as this frontal boundary exits the area, but high pressure will continue to dominate our weather. That's going to keep us breezy for the next couple of days. Some large swells still out there affecting the islands. We're asking you beachgoers and boaters to exercise extreme caution over the next several days, as those swells will continue to create some hazardous beaching and boating conditions. Future forecast, nothing happening across our area. Quiet, couple of spotty showers through tomorrow, but we expect a frontal boundary by Saturday and into Sunday that is now moving into the Florida area, and we could see that front get in here sometime late Saturday night into Sunday, so a few more showers expected in the forecast, with high pressure building back across the area for early next week. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. We have an advisory still posted due to the rip currents and the swells out there. East to southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. They will be gusting high at times. Seas running 4 to 7 feet, but they will be up to 9 feet in north to northeasterly swells, mainly along the Atlantic exposed shorelines. Low tide will be at 9:57 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, quiet weather through Friday and Saturday. Then we expect that front to get near late Saturday into Sunday. Some showers in the forecast. That should carry into Monday, but conditions will be improving for the early part of next week. So we're looking for some very nice conditions upcoming. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
All right, thanks so much, Greg. Well, festivities continues in celebration of the country's 50th anniversary of independence. The Farm Entertainment Group is preparing to host a major concert on March 31st at the Farm on Marshall Road. Returning to the stage after a 20-year absence is legendary Bahamian musician Phil Stubbs. Member of the Farm Entertainment Group, Ronald Sims, sharing more on Stubbs' contributions to Bahamian music over the years.
He has written the songs of the Bahamas over the years, songs that a lot of us can identify to. I Got the Flu. He warns us every time hurricane season is coming about, hurricane is coming, you better batten down. He sings of being so proud to be Bahamian, and he sings the pot cake, the dog, they don't know me, you only know me when you need me, you know? Songs that resound within the heart and mind of Bahamian. And then, of course, his classic, So Proud to be Bahamian, and especially in this 50th year of Bahamian independence. This event is sanctioned by the Bahamas 50th Anniversary Independence Commission.
Group member Dylan McKenzie, also known as DMAC, and music director Fred Ferguson say attendees can expect a spectacular show and are encouraging residents to come out and show their Bahamian pride.
Very happy to be a part of this production. When I was approached to be a part, to take part in this, I was like, wow, this is history, historical, and I definitely want to be a part of it.
I think it's safe to say that Phil Stubbs is, if not the best, his history, his telling songwriter in the country. And you know, I'm just discovering more now. We know all his songs, we sing them in passing, but in the moment that I have now to study them while we're producing this, I get to see the talent and the gift that he brings to his style of songwriting. So I have a full band of horns and background singers.
All right, sounds great. And to see that story again, you can visit ournews.bs or the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. And with that, we thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.